Hey, everybody, and welcome to Taproot Conversations. I'm Nicole Bonner.
And I am John D'Ambrosio, and we are here with Caitlin Reimer. Caitlin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Dr. Caitlin Reimer. I am a chiropractor, imagine that. And currently I'm located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I am awaiting returning to Cuesta, Florida to my beautiful practice, Lux Chiropractic. It's kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking.
A nice mix.
Yeah.
Wait, back up, because I've never met you, but where did you go to chiropractic school?
I went to Life University in Marietta, Georgia.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you graduate?
I graduated in June 2017. And then I spent probably about a year and a half working in the greater Atlanta area, moved to Florida, fell in love with Florida, worked in a few different places there. And I know we'll get into the details of all of that before deciding it was time to open my own. And so about when COVID hit last year was really like the kick in the pants for me to just decide it was time. And so I just started driving parking lots, actually. No one else was around, so it wasn't weird. I would drive and park in a parking lot and just walk the entire strip and creep into the windows and see, does this look like my home? Is this where my office is going to be? And actually in the first trip, I found my spot. And it's been a journey since.
Caitlin, this is a great question, but how did you know when you looked in the window, how did you know that it was your spot? Like, what did you feel in your body?
So it's such a good question, because this was the same thing I experienced actually when I looked at chiropractic schools. I had been told by numerous chiropractors here in Winnipeg, they unanimously said, don't go to one school. I won't say its name. And multiple people said, if you're going to do this, either go to Life University in Georgia or Parker in Dallas. And so I went to both places. I went to Parker first, and it felt great. I did the application, and then I flew from Dallas to LifeU, and they do tours. And it was actually when the school was closed. It was just me, and this woman showed up to take me on a tour. She was amazing. Her name was Erin McManus, something like that. She was awesome. It felt like home. Like, I cannot explain how I knew, but as I walked around, my soul said, this is where you're supposed to be. And so the same way, when I was driving through these parking lots, you get that gut feeling like, this isn't a good place, or, I should check this out. And so this one parking lot, I just felt like there's something here. And as I walked, there were 2 units open. One had paper on the window, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not actually open, and one didn't. And I literally did this. I took a picture, actually, of looking in so that I could save it. And I felt it. It looked and felt right. And so I called the number on the sign. The guy told me he was saving it for someone else. And 3 weeks later, I called him again, and he said, you know what? Like, it's not looking like it's going to go to the other people. So if you still want it, it's yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because, too, that's such a great story and example, John, wouldn't you say, for just having the initiative to call again? Like, so many times, I know, like a million times in my lifetime, something like that would come up and it'd be like, all right, you lost it, or you didn't get this opportunity, or you missed this space. And just to have the initiative is just awesome, Caitlin. I'm really proud of you. That's awesome.
It's interesting because I know, John, we're both in Black Diamond Club, and they often say the saying, the fortune's in the follow-up. And it's so true. Like, during those 3 weeks, it's not like I just sat at home and did nothing for the rest of that time. I actually had found another space and had called and left a message with another person, and they never called me back. And so that was kind of the catalyst for, that other space really felt like the right one. Let's see. Called back. The same day that I went and signed the lease, the other guy called me back to say, I'm so sorry, I missed your call. And it was kind of a shenanigans, but I thought, this is so fascinating. Like, had you followed up sooner,
right, you might not be
I
there.
would have probably gone with it because it was available, but you didn't. And then I did follow up, and then I got this perfect place.
That's
awesome.
Fantastic. So you did that, you had that feeling that it connected, like you said, you also did that with school. Tell us about what it was like going to Life for you.
Life was a
Your whole
dream, honestly.
experience.
I know a lot of people, especially now, do not have good experiences at chiropractic school, and that was not the case for me. I loved chiropractic school. From the course load to Georgia, it was beautiful. Coming from Winnipeg, where it's cold and there's harsh weather, to this luscious green place where you closed for a snow day because there were 2 snowflakes. To the people, really feeling like I found people I resonated with who were on the same wavelength, to the different things I was involved in. Chiropractic school was an amazing experience for me.
That's great.
I think a big part of that too, though, is I was ready for that, right? And I went into school knowing that school's job really is to get you to be able to get a license, to pass board exams. And a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, have this misconception that school's job is to make you an excellent chiropractor. And now, yeah, that would be great if school made you an excellent chiropractor, but I think it's the same for dental school or med school or really any school. Their job isn't to make you excel. Their job is to graduate proficient practitioners.
Yeah, to get you to be able to pass the board.
Yeah, to pass a board exam. It is up to you how you're going to give more, or how interested or how passionate you are about being the best or giving your heart into it or whatever the case may be, or not. And it's no surprise there's lots of bad you name it's, everything, but there's also lots of great you name it's. And I would imagine that in any field we would find that the great ones are the ones who didn't expect school to hand it to them.
I think that's life in general too. If you expect life to just hand you everything, you're just going to be sitting around and disappointed. You see the best in things and go for it. You find the best.
Yeah.
And it's also about taking responsibility. Like you're a big responsibility taker, obviously. And yeah, I agree. A lot of people go into it thinking that, it's kind of like when a patient comes into your office, John, and they're like, all right, I just want my insurance to cover everything. And you're like, it's not your insurance job to, take responsibility for your health. Right. And it's kind of like the same thing.
Totally. I'm sure, John, you see it, I see it. You have patients who have amazing results. They're typically the ones who do what you say, and they do it in a regimen, versus the ones who have mediocre or poor results typically didn't do what you asked. And so,
right.
So Caitlin, they say that hindsight is 20/20. Is there anything that you would have done differently while you were in school now that you can kind of look back and you have this bird's eye vision or this bird's eye view?
Yeah, honestly, I totally get the saying. I'm a pretty firm believer in the things I did before have shaped and created the way for me to be who I am and where I am now. And so even though I look back and there were definitely parts that weren't the easiest, or parts that I go, ooh, why did I make that decision? I don't think I would change it, because I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't gone through the things I did.
And that's great advice. Yeah. How about your vision of, you started chiropractic school. I'm assuming you had some sort of vision like, wow, this is how I want to practice when I get out. And I can't wait to get through this. And I see my dream office. And then you graduate. How has that evolved, changed, or did it change at all from day one to graduation?
So different. So I started chiropractic school. I'd had a chiropractor here in Winnipeg. It was such a beautiful experience. I'd never seen someone really, truly love what they do. And that's what made me fall in love with chiropractic. And then I worked in an office that ran, they were, I would say, high volume, a lot of systems, a lot of procedures, a lot of scripting. And there were elements that I liked and I could see the benefit of. There were also elements that I did not like. And so I didn't necessarily know exactly how I wanted to practice. And I wasn't clear on if I wanted something of my own right away. I always knew eventually I'd want to have my own space. But through chiropractic school, through the clubs I was in, through the seminars I went to, my understanding of chiropractic, not necessarily the philosophy itself. I think I've always had a pretty firm understanding of it, but the bigness of it really changed. And really diving into, I started going to MLS and to BGI, and then Adjusting Ninjas came, and I really dove into that. It's now called Kairos Training Culture. Ran the club at school for a year and a half maybe, and then started leading their training camps after. But being involved in groups where people were looking at the body as a whole and looking at connection over correction and being a vessel of love and connecting to love before you ever put your hands on the person you're serving. Those were parts I really didn't understand, not because they didn't exist before, but because I just didn't know to know, right? That unconscious incompetence. And so as I went through those things, I really got clear on the fact that I wasn't ready to open on my own right away because I did not know anything about business. And I didn't necessarily have a clear vision yet on where I wanted to be. I was in a relationship when I graduated. He still had about a year and a half in chiropractic school. And so all I knew is like, I'll stay here until he's done and then we'll figure out where we're going. And then it didn't work. And then I decided, guess it's time for me to figure out where I'm going.
Right.
I think I did that at some point before I was married too.
Right. I think a lot of people go through it. They say chiropractic school, you'll either have someone in your class who gets married, has a kid, or gets divorced. And I think all of those were in my class. And I think we all have this journey, relationships matter. And yeah.
So you brought me kind of to another question. So if you were sitting face to face with a chiropractic student, would you recommend that they associate first before opening their own practice? Or like what would your advice for them be in regards to associateships?
Yeah, I think there are benefits to associateships, independent contracts, and to opening on your own. I think that if you are not clear on how to run a business, absolutely associating in an office that runs in a similar fashion to the way you'd want to run your own is a great idea.
Yep.
I think if you know how you want to run an office and maybe you don't have the funds yet to get your own space, independent contracting can be beneficial if you have the freedom within that independent contractship to actually practice the way you do, because there are a lot of muddy waters in chiropractic where you're signed on as an IC, but you're actually working as an associate. It can be unclear. I think though that if you have that clear vision of what you want and how you're going to do it, whether that's because you knew going into school or you have great coaches or mentorship or you're in a practice management group, whatever it looks like, whatever works for you, I think at that point, a lot of people don't start on their own out of fear and they think I'm not ready yet, but the reality is you're never going to be ready. So you have to just do it, because learning from experience, I probably could have started on my own sooner, but I thought like, let me figure out ABC before I jump in. And then I jumped in and every day I'm learning something new. And so I don't think there is any way I could have prepared for all the things I didn't know.
Caitlin, I've been in practice for 20 years and there are days that I am not prepared.
Right?
Like happen. So
yeah, it's gonna happen.
Life. True.
Get tricky or sticky with associateships and independent contractors though is like when you go into a space expecting that you're just a staff, let's say, and that you're just gonna adjust people or you're just gonna be an exam doc or whatever that is, but the practice doesn't run in integrity with your views for chiropractic, I think that you will be setting yourself up for a lot of struggle, a lot of heartache, a lot of misery, and no one's going to hand it to you. Whether you're associating or independent contracting or on your own, it comes back to what we were talking about before with responsibility. You are still responsible for taking care of the people you see, for getting people into the office, for communicating chiropractic, for serving at your highest capacity. That doesn't change regardless of which hat you're wearing.
Thank you very much. Amen. Because that's really our moral obligation to humanity as chiropractors.
Yeah.
People sometimes confuse, I think, our obligation to humanity as chiropractors versus their obligation to their boss. Because as a chiropractor, what we do is so much bigger than what your responsibility is to just a boss and having a job, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's huge. I love that. Kaylin, I
that's-
love you already.
Me too.
And I just met you.
I know, it's so exciting. I think too, people are scared to leave. People are scared to walk away from something. Like they feel like, oh, I took this job and now I'm stuck here. But guess what? If you're not doing your best work in this space, you're not best serving these people. And if I was your boss, I don't want you here in that condition. And if I'm the not boss, I don't want to be here in that condition. So this is a lose-lose. Let's cut our losses and move forward in a way that's in better alignment for both of us.
And I think that kind of embraces the whole philosophy of chiropractic, because you want to be not mechanistic where you're just kind of going through the motions, but you want to be holistic and take everything into account and blend it together for not just for chiropractic, but for your life and for your care for the patients, everything.
Yeah. If your office is subluxated,
right,
not going to be performing to its highest function, right? To its optimal capacity. Remove subluxation.
And if your office is, it means that you are from the neck up, and you need to address that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So with all of this now going on, what was your biggest, going back to school, what was the class that you loved the most, that influenced you the most, where you said, I just love this. I wish I could take this class again. It really moved me. It's my favorite.
Okay, so I'm a bit of an academic junkie. I love learning. So I enjoyed a lot of aspects of chiropractic school. Probably one of my favorite classes though was, I want to say it was in my 13th quarter. It was Dr. Koch's advanced philosophy class. And it was small. I want to say there were maybe 13 of us in the class. It was an elective, but we met each week and it was discussion. And so our required reading, our textbook was the chiropractic textbook, Stevenson's. And each week we did a reading, going through not just the 33 principles, but going through, a lot of people aren't familiar. A lot of people have only opened the book and read the 33 principles, but it's laid out like freshman, junior, sophomore, senior. Right. I hope I got the order right. And each section, just like in school, goes deeper into what those principles are. And so it was really cool to explore the text and then to sit in a class with a philosophy diplomate and for us to be able to just have these open conversations where there's no fear that you're going to get it wrong, but that, you know, maybe you see it one way and someone can shed light on something, or someone else understood something to mean this, and just to have that open dialogue. I think that right now philosophy is in a lot of ways lost in chiropractic. And I think for a lot of people, it's really overwhelming to know where to even start to dig in. And you read a green book, half the time you don't even understand what it's saying. Or you go talk to someone and they instantly tell you, no, this meant this. And it can be really aggressive and intimidating. And so it was a really good place for me to get to explore philosophy more and to get more comfortable with expressing and communicating.
I love that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you feel like that's a huge part of your success, is just having a really good philosophical foundation?
I would say yes. I think at its core, if we're going to be successful as a chiropractor, we need to be able to explain what it is we do. And not just the science of what we do, and not just the art of explaining how I am going to adjust you, but truly being able to communicate what chiropractic is. And I honestly wish the class could have been offered sooner. There were other philosophy classes along the way, but by no means were they as interactive. And I think there's a big learning component in that. I'd recommend every person who's at life to take that class.
I agree. Awesome. I agree. All right. So did you attend any events during school or after graduation? And how important is it for students and new graduates to do the same?
Yes, is the short answer. At one point, I think I had a running list that between the start of school and graduation, there were over 30 weekend seminars. In the last year and a half, I think I went to one almost every other weekend. But yes, I think that it is so important at the beginning to expose yourself to as much as possible. And then I think where some people go wrong is they continue to expose themselves to everything and they get burnt out. I think at the beginning, expose yourself to lots so that you can find what resonates with you. Because if you don't know, you don't know. But once you find those things that give you that feeling, that I'm home feeling, that this is where I belong, these are my people, dive in deep to those 1 or 2 or 3 things and really, really start to work towards mastering them and let the rest go. It's okay. If for you it's Thompson, awesome. If for you it's Gonstead, awesome. For me, it was KTC, it was MLS, and it was BGI. And they work really beautifully together. I think that really exploring and going deep into that, though, allows you that ability to have proficiency, which is going to make you great at what you do when you graduate. And if I know this is what's home and this is what feels right for me, then it doesn't matter necessarily the ins and outs of NUCA, which I did take that elective. That was an elective. But if that's not how I'm going to practice, why am I going to fill my head with more and more and more of something that's not relevant to me and to my practice?
Right.
So you use these seminars as kind of a divining rod, and you just went until you felt the pull in the direction you wanted to go. And instead of then going off track, say, let me look for something else, you said, this works for me, let me delve deeper. And if at that point you decided, once you got to a certain level, okay, it's dry, it's not really what I want, you would go somewhere else. But until then, why?
Yeah.
You're often you found something.
Yeah, I would say in my first couple of quarters, I checked out a lot of clubs. And I didn't even necessarily finish a whole quarter of a club. Like, I went, if it felt good, I might have gone again. If it didn't, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. But
You're very innate, Caitlin.
I am. I'm a really intuitive person, and I really believe in trusting those intuitions, whether they're some people have gut feelings, some people just know, some people can see it, whatever those intuitions are. I think it's so important to listen to them. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was my 7th quarter when that first Adjusting Ninja seminar came, and then started the club twice a week. And I think my last 7 quarters, I did 9 KTC seminars. I traveled everywhere. I was in Dallas. I was in the Bay Area. I was in Kansas City. Like, if there was a seminar, I was there. And it was great for me. It was really great for me.
Good for you.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I forgot the next question because I got so involved in what Caitlin was saying.
That's a good sign. I like it.
I know. Go ahead, John, you go.
Okay, so what was the biggest factor for you in guiding you in the way you choose to practice today? So what point?
Well, you kind of hit on it, just that intuitive nature. The other thing I did a lot in chiropractic school is she's not still practicing, although I think she makes cameo appearances sometimes. Dr. Susan Rossi had an office just north of the school, and she had been in practice 38 years, I want to say, when she retired. She also has a long history of work with the esoteric field, Mayan training, and so on and so forth. And I basically lived in her office. So while doing my chiropractic curriculum and then my parallel chiropractic curriculum with seminars and such, then I was also doing this, I guess, third, you could call it, curriculum of the intuitive side of things and of my own healing, right? And getting to the root of a lot of my own stuff. And it was beautiful. And so I really learned through her office how to connect with my intuition and how to use that and how to trust it and how to train it and grow it. And so I think that is what guided me a lot, is knowing where I felt home, knowing what felt right for me, and then diving further into places that gave me that opportunity.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think, if people at, 20 something years old coming out of chiropractic school can A, recognize that they have stuff, and then B, clear it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Right. And like we all do. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if you grew up in the most privileged home or the least privileged home. We all
Mm-hmm.
have stuff, varying
True.
degrees of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we're willing to look at it sooner, we'll have a lot more peace sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And and it's a continuous process of learning. It's a skill, actually.
Yeah.
It's a
It's like
skill.
an onion or a cake, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I have days where I'm like, haven't I done this already? Like, how many more layers to this thing are there? Like, what we're doing this again? Okay, buckle up. We're doing it again.
Obviously,
But you get better
I
and
didn't
better.
learn my lesson.
Right? Oh, yes. Or like, there's more layers to this lesson. Okay, here we go.
And that's the key, is you realize it's a lesson, so you're learning from it, and you're not just blindly plowing through it to get through it. And then of course you're going to have the same thing happen again because you didn't learn.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with our bodies, right? Like whatever word you want to put on it, spirit, source, creator, God, innate, universal, there's all these words, right? But the expression of that within us, the universe whispers to us before it screams.
Mm.
Whether we listen to the whispers or not determines
Exactly.
if we're going to get to the screaming. And so I think for a lot of people, not just in their lives in terms of expression of life, but a lot of people we see in our offices, they waited until screaming happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a lot more difficult to work through.
It is, especially if you then try to like plug ears and not hear the screaming, and you're just ignoring that because you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, because it's scary. It's uncomfortable. That's often it's just that it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But we talk a lot about that the growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And so the more comfortable you are in the uncomfortable, the more growth opportunities you're going to have.
Yeah. Your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger each time.
Mm-hmm.
Doing things that you never would have dreamed of doing years before, but they're nothing. You're just looking for more discomfort to grow more. Yeah.
Sounds like maybe you might have some growth junkie tendencies there.
All right, let's see. Gosh.
So Caitlin, how do you wish you were better prepared for practice? Like, do you feel like you were adequately prepared for practice? And if not, is there any area that you feel like you were better prepared?
Yeah, great question. I think in terms of my hands-on skill, I feel adequately prepared. I feel more than adequately prepared. I feel like I've put in a lot of work, honestly. From my philosophy.
You mean like adjusting, Kate?
Yeah, my adjusting ability, my hands.
Now, is that from school or from all the seminars you took outside of school?
From the work outside of school.
Okay.
Got it.
Oops, I said it.
That's what people need to hear.
I feel like from a business perspective, I did not feel prepared. And while I was in school, I was really off put by practice management groups because I'd had experience with some, very few, but a couple that just made me go, ooh, no, not for me. But that then made me look at all of them from the lens of, ooh, no, not for me. Mm-hmm. I think that, yes, the school gives you a couple of classes. It's like anything. They give you a couple classes because they have to give you a couple classes. But I don't think anyone necessarily is ready to just open a business outside of school if they didn't have support from somewhere else. I think I worked in many places. I worked in an office, in a naturopath's office in Bremen, Georgia. I worked in a chiropractic office in Atlanta. I worked in another chiropractic office in Atlanta. One more as more of an associate, one more of an independent contractor. I moved to Florida and I worked in a doc's office there as an associate. And then I actually worked for the Joint for a while, all before going, okay, you definitely figured out what you don't want in your own practice. it's time to do something. But even at that point, I didn't have a checklist for, you know, get a space, get a lawyer to look at your lease, get an alarm, get a payment system, get EHR, get a computer. And I think that whoever's doing that, whoever's helping people and supporting people in that way, like, so much gratitude to them, because there's so many things we just don't know. And I just tried to figure out a lot on my own. I will say that I think what really gave me the confidence to go for it was joining Black Diamond Club. I joined them in December of 2019. And I felt like, even though it wasn't a place for chiropractic systems or the checklist, I just felt like they gave me awareness of how businesses should run and how much that is reflection of self, and how doing the work on self prepares you for the business, that I felt like, okay, I have tools to be able to do this, and I have a support system of people I can reach out to and ask for help. And I think that was really big.
And that goes back to what you had said about schools. School's purpose is to get you to really pass the boards. I mean, your best adjusting, you did not learn at life. Business, you did not learn at life, because those things are not really on the boards. I mean, there may be setups on the boards and things like that, but you're not actually locating subluxations. You're not opening a practice. So I don't think business is anywhere.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, you have to make a business plan and marketing plan, but like, let's get real. You copied your friends, or you all kind of made one together and changed it.
Or you Googled it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know your generation. You Google it.
Did Control F, and you changed every time it said John's Pawn Shop to Caitlin's chiropractic office. Like,
yeah,
you did what you had to do to pass the class.
Exactly.
I would say, at the time that I was starting to consider my own, Dr. Brett, who had created Kairos Training Culture, it's not like he's dead or anything. He was doing a system called the Source Systems, which was the systems for how he was running his office in Oakland. And because at that point in time, and probably still, he is someone who embodies chiropractic in a way that is most authentic and resonates most with the way I view chiropractic. In my mind, whatever you're doing is obviously working, you're successful, so I want to know more. And so I did ask a lot of questions. I was able to join the Source Systems and get some of those more tangible pieces. Unfortunately, the program doesn't exist anymore, but there are other opportunities within that realm if it's something one wanted to explore. But that was super helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then I would super suggest, I did this in school, visit chiropractic offices and ask docs for their paperwork. No one, I did not meet one person who was like, no, this is confidential, you can't have it. I must have like 13 sets of chiropractic paperwork just to be able to look and go, hey, I like the way you did this, or I like the way you did that, or I like the questions on your re-exam, or I don't like this at all, garbage. Like,
yeah, it's smart.
There's
smart.
Lots of resources out there if you're willing to look for the resources.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. If you had one piece of advice for current chiropractic students, what would it be?
Follow your heart.
Boom. Drop the
mic. That's it, John. We're hanging out too much together.
If I had one, I'd do it.
You need one for your next interview. Just boom.
Yeah. Note to self: go buy a mic so that I can do a mic drop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. I think it is that simple, though. I think find the things that resonate with you and stick with them. Follow your heart.
Amen.
Love it.
That's a great place to end. Really,
it absolutely is.
Perfect.
So I think we will end here. So, Caitlin, thank you so much. You shared amazing things. I love your intuitive nature and how you're able to then convey that in words. Or a lot of people, as intuitive they are, they can't kind of put a finger on a way to explain it to people. And you just did that beautifully. And I think that's going to help a lot of students. So thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. I have to ask, Nicole, you're a chiropractor also?
Yes.
Yes.
And where do you work? Do you guys work together?
No.
No.
Is this because on my
state.
screen, Nicole, you're on the top and John, you're on the bottom. Where are you?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
And I'm in New
And
Jersey.
John practices in North Jersey,
Okay.
and I practice in South Jersey.
Gotcha.
And I actually run a chiropractic student coaching program where I help students and first year doctors actually do exactly what you said, like create a checklist for them and then walk them through either an associateship or opening their own practice. And just because of my love and my passion for students, I texted John one day and I was like, let's just do a podcast and have fun.
Love it.
And here we
And here
are.
So needed. I think, especially the types of questions you're asking, like we all know there's no shortage of podcasts out there right now.
Right.
But as much as you might get like aha moments from certain ones, I don't know that there's really anyone else asking the questions that you're asking. And so I think for students especially, like this is so important because a lot of people are just trying to overconsume information, and I think you can get too much information.
Definitely. Drinking out of the fire hose when you have so much at your disposal is very common, and it doesn't
then-
fill you up. It's
And
just,
there's no implementation either. Like
yeah,
you're just
Mhm.
always taking in information, but if
Mhm.
you're never implementing, then
Right.
what was the point?
Exactly.
And that's, I've mentioned it in other podcasts, but then you would know that from what Sean says, better done than perfect. You just have to kind of take what you have and implement it instead of saying, well, I need more. There's more out there, and you're paralyzed because
Yeah, I've been there. Like it's not a great place to be where it's just like there's so much to do and you're so overwhelmed that you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've
When
all
you
been there.
finally do the thing, you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. And then you beat yourself up. You're like, oh, well, you should have just done it sooner. Like,
right.
we're
But then you
so
got to keep that
backwards.
momentum going, right? Because you do something and it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then you wait too long and then something else comes up and you're scared again.
Yeah.
You got to say, okay, I did this. Great. What can I do next while I'm still on this kind of high, on this roll, and keep doing it? And it sounds like exactly what you did and are doing.
There were some hiccups in there. Hi, I'm in Canada. Like, yeah, what a time.
That's a whole nother podcast, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you guys have afternoon adjusting hours or you're off for the day. You back to it?
I'm not, my practice is open, but I have an associate that does an amazing job taking care of our patients and the community. So
Love
I'm
it.
coaching this afternoon.
Well, enjoy.
Thank you. I always am in joy when I coach, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Caitlin, again, thank you. This was awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks
Appreciate
for
you
having
taking
me.
the time.
You're welcome. Talk soon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Caitlin.